Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back. Kellen here with Droid Life, episode 84. It's been a month. Today's June 10th. Thanks for joining us. With me, Tim and Ron. Say hi, guys.
Hey guys, how's it going? Tim here.
Hey, this is Ron.
Yeah, welcome back. We've just had stuff going on the last month. Trips, personal stuff, whatever. So we're back, and we have kind of a lot to talk about, obviously. Google I.O. went down. Tons of stuff out of there. WWDC was this week, so Apple announced some new stuff. And there's just been little things here and there. We want to talk Android Auto. Tim spent some time with it, Nvidia Shield, all of that stuff. So we're not going to waste any time. Let's just jump right into this. So Google I.O., it's been, 2 weeks now, I think, since Tim and I were there. And Google, as always, ran through it was like a 3-hour keynote, right? It was long. And of course, I was stuck like in a middle row, in the middle of the row, and couldn't budge for 3 hours. They announced all sorts of stuff. I mean, we're talking Android M, which, by the way, everyone on that day said that it was confirmed to be Milkshake or something like that. Like, Google hasn't named this thing yet. They're probably either working out a deal with someone or they're just going to wait and come up with something later on. It's just Android M. We also got new versions of Google Cardboard and Project Brillo, which had been rumored and is sort of their home, smart home, Internet of Things software. Let's see, there's HBO Now is coming. There's a new Google Photos app, Android Pay, Google Now on tap. There's kind of a lot of stuff that went down. So we'll just kind of overview some of it. We've been talking a lot about all of this stuff, individual features, and so you guys kind of know a lot of what came out of that, but we just want to give maybe some overview. So Android M, let's just start there. Tim and I have been running it off and on tablets and phones. It's available for Nexus 5, 6, 9, and Player. So it is out there in case anybody wants to flash it. It's fairly stable, and it's just used to show off some of the new stuff so developers can get their apps ready and all of that fun. So Tim, you've been running it. Anything you want to talk about in particular with Android M? I know we've done overviews and things like that, but now that you've had it for 2 weeks, is this like a mind-blowing, game-changing update, or we've kind of passed that? That was Lollipop. Now this is something else.
Yeah, given the fact that Android seems so mature now, I don't know if we can expect every year to see some sort of like groundbreaking change or anything like that. And Google, when they opened up I/O, they said, "Hey, this is a polishing update." So they're proud clearly of what Lollipop, brought to the table in terms of how it looks and how it operates. So this one, they're just trying to fix that. Although we as users know that Lollipop was a big steaming pile of garbage when it first released. So, filled with bugs and all that. So hopefully it's getting better. Android M, surprisingly stable. I've been running it on the Nexus 6 and Nexus 9, and definitely been using the 6 a bit more than the Nexus 9. Nexus 9 just sort of sits on the coffee table, and I use it whenever I need it. But, it's stable. It's fine. I could only find one app that wasn't working, and that was Uber. But pretty sure they updated that, and it might be working now. But I haven't used Uber in Portland, in my hometown. So other than that, I hate the vertical app drawer. I don't believe that that's what Google will stick with. There's no way Matthias would say, "Oh yeah, this looks good." Even with all those funky shirts, man, there's no way. I mean, bring back the cards and the horizontal slider. I got used to that. Of course, like earlier versions of Android had vertical scrolling app drawers, so I think that they'll go back to horizontal cards. Maybe they're just testing the waters. I don't know. Anyway, Android M, not a lot to say. There was a few tweaks here and there with like in the system toggle area, the notification shade, but other than that, nothing too crazy. It still looks good, all that material design stuff. So not too much to say, although it does seem to run pretty good. But again, none of you will ever run it on your phones, whatever you're running now, because carriers will withhold the update. You'll never see it. So don't even worry about it at this point.
So sad. It's so sad.
Got to be realistic.
Yeah. So we've talked about a number of features. Actually, Google posted a slide during I/O that was an M shape, and it listed out through text all of the new stuff. So, some of the things are like USB Type-C's coming to phones and probably tablets. So the next Nexus phone or tablet, one of them hopefully will have USB Type-C, which is kind of cool. That's a pretty big deal. Hopefully every single phone then going forward will, but they well, it'll take years probably for everyone to adopt it. There's dark and light themes and settings, which is kind of an interesting little tweak. We'll see if that means that'll go full system. Like if the dialer will flip from white to dark. We don't know yet, but something Google's apparently tweaking. Native fingerprint support, so that'll be built in. Let's see. Auto backups of apps to Google Drive is going to happen, plus auto restoring. That's kind of a big deal. The backup and restore stuff with Android has always been really, really bad. They fixed volume controls. It seems so crazy that they had to fix volume controls because they screwed them up so badly in Lollipop. Let's see. Do not disturb mode is once again called do not disturb mode instead of interruptions or whatever Google decided weirdly to call it in stable Lollipop. Let's see. Yes, the vertical app drawer, which Tim hates, and I don't know that I hate it so much anymore. I've kind of found that when using the Nexus 5 more and more with Android M, scrolling vertically, like your thumb moves better. Your thumb moves better like this than it does this way. So when you're scrolling up and down, like it's kind of more natural. I think we're all just so used to the horizontal paginated approach. You can also, I like it because you can swipe once and go all the way to the bottom or whatever letter you want to. And when it goes side to side, you have to go swipe, swipe, swipe. So that kind of drives me nuts. So I actually don't mind it. I think it just looks weird. And the lettering on the side.
Yeah. Well, it looks under-designed, I think, is the thing, because it's just so pale, white. Like, just that's what I think people are really more like, oh, like what's going on here? Because we're used to the dark coloring instead.
Yeah, so it looks weird, but like I wrote up that it's actually kind of an improvement over, they're listing out, shortcuts to your most recently used apps, which could come in handy. There's a search function for those that have 8,000 apps installed. So they added all these features. It just looks weird because, it looks underdeveloped or underdesigned, and it now scrolls vertically when they switched from so I think it threw everyone. Let's see, there's a split keyboard for tablets, which is just sort of a subtle little feature. What else is going on? Oh, heads-up notifications are now called peaking. Kind of doesn't much sense, but...
Is there any changes with that either in terms of how it...
Yeah, so heads-up notifications, they used to actually be mostly terrible because the developer could just set their notifications as high priority, and if you set them as high priority, they would just do heads-up notifications all the time, and the user had no control over whether or not you wanted those to show up. Now that they've changed it to peaking, you can actually go in and individually control whether or not you get heads-up notifications. So that is actually an improvement because before, like Facebook, I think just set all of their stuff to high priority, so everything Facebook just would pop down and pop down and pop down. So
yeah, and it is kind of it's funny because like when iOS added that, people were complaining that it was super annoying. I think at first on iOS you couldn't even swipe it away. Like now you can get rid of it, and I think on Android you swipe left or right to get rid of it. Like you swipe the other way.
Yeah, you can go either way.
Swipe,
or you can swipe up to quickly dismiss. So that like kind of dismisses it, but it keeps the icon there. If you swipe it left or right,
that clears
dismisses the notification.
Yeah, which you can't do on iOS. Like if you see it, like there's not. If you like do like a quick reply on something, obviously that deals with it. But that's like the most annoying thing for me on my iPhone is I'll get like a notification. All I want to do is send like a red receipt for a text message. Like I don't have to open this stupid app. Like all I want to do is just send that, and so like with Android, you can just very easily do that, which is nice. I don't think it's very user facing. Like it took me a while to figure out the difference between those two, but it's good that they're there.
I think one of those the big thing, at least to me, about Android M is going to be about hardware. They implemented, the fingerprint natively, so. When we see hardware that implements these new additions to the software side, the code that is now in existence from Google, and the manufacturers don't have to do kind of a lot of the hard work like Samsung has done already in HTC on some of their phones. I mean, those phones are going to be the ones that are really cool, that come running Android M with the fingerprint, with USB Type-C and all that stuff. I feel like I don't know how much more software stuff they can kind of bake into Android besides until it gets like, whatever, it's cool, but how much of it is necessary?
Yeah, well, I'm curious to see which implementation works better. Like from what I've seen so far, it looks like they're pretty similar, like in terms of how fast it unlocks and things like that. But that does make me a little concerned because I'm guessing Samsung's going to keep going with their implementation regardless of how Google's works. which is part of the problem with Google being so slow with some of those things. Like if Google had come out with this last year, like it looked like they were hoping to, and then just ended up dropping it, right? Because they couldn't get the hardware on the Nexus 6.
Right.
Like it would have been nice if that was built in earlier. That would kind of say like, hey, Samsung, like we know you guys are going to doing this stuff. You know, maybe you guys use this instead since it's baked in. Now that it's this far out, it makes it less likely that they'll do that.
Yeah, Samsung's got Samsung Pay to worry about now, and they want to make sure that everything goes through their servers.
Yeah, and didn't that just get delayed too?
Yes.
Delayed. Yeah.
Well, they said it's coming out in the summer. I think it's coming out fall now, right?
Initially, it was
they're
supposed
saving
to
for the
be
Note 5. Yeah.
Yeah. So initially, it was supposed to be July at the earliest, and then now they're pushing it because they want to release it with the Note and their new smartwatch, so they can you can tap your smartwatch and pay just like with Apple Pay and all that stuff.
Whole bunch of stuff people won't buy.
Yeah.
I've never seen anyone with a Samsung watch out in public.
Maybe this one won't be terrible looking or won't suck. Except is it going to run Tizen? Probably.
Yeah, it'll run Tizen. It'll be exclusive to Samsung phones, and it's hard to stay within a company's ecosystem like that unless it's Apple. Because Apple actually makes good products. Like, not that Samsung doesn't, but no offense to them, it's just not as good. If you had to choose one or the other, you would just go Apple.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. Like Samsung makes some good stuff, but like their watches haven't been great. That's the problem, right? So it's like, okay, I might want to have a Samsung phone and then a watch from like Motorola or something, but you can make those work, but it's nicer when everything's fully integrated and looks nice and all that.
Yeah, the Galaxies are pretty atrocious. Like for the Gears, I mean.
Yeah,
because they're not Galaxies anymore. They're just Gears.
Well, Samsung basically realized how bad they were and then just stop making that. Like they haven't had a watch in a while, right? It's been over a year probably.
Yeah, I think one of their executives talked about that. They were like, you know what? All these products we're gonna stop, and we're just gonna wait till we have like one that's right. Like holy shit! He just like recognized like Samsung's own problem. That's amazing. They flood the market with a bunch of junk. I mean, it's too much.
Yeah.
But speaking of all that payment stuff with sensors, we have Android Pay too, right?
We have Android Pay. Yep. So Android Pay is sort of like a piece of Google Wallet. It's like, how did you describe this to me the other day, Ron, when I asked you the difference between Android or I can't remember what you described that. You said like one's the mechanism and one's like the...
Yeah, they work both ways. Yeah, so just like it's basically the exact same thing. So Wallet's the place where I think in both cases, because I think they changed. Everybody's called Wallet now.
Everything's Wallet, yeah.
Yeah, so that's where your cards go, whatever they are, whether they're loyalty cards or actual credit cards, and then the mechanism for payment is either Android Pay or Apple Pay, depending on what phone you have.
Right.
Which is all very confusing.
It is very confusing. So Android Pay, it's not really. Well, like it'll work with the new fingerprint stuff, but basically it's just a prettier looking payment system for Google Wallet. It's like they took the payment, they took the payment part of Google Wallet and said, well, we should probably call that something else. So we'll call that Android Pay because you pay with Android Pay, but you store everything in your wallet, I guess.
Yeah.
And so it'll just roll out to more and more people, and Google's taking it more serious and all that stuff.
Yeah. And they've got carrier support too. That's the big thing, right? Because before that was the problem with Wallet is you couldn't get it on. I think you could get it everywhere but Verizon, right?
Well, Soft Card or ISIS or whatever you want to call that thing that Google essentially just bought and shut down. I mean, Android Pay is just you really do just have Android Pay and Apple Pay now, and then Samsung will.
Right? Because Sprint isn't on Android Pay.
Which would be weird if they aren't, because they were always the big... Because they were like the first carrier to support Google Wallet. Like they were the ones that always was like, Google Wallet.
They have something else, because ISIS and then SoftCard was T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T. Sprint was not on board. And I think when they announced Android Pay, I think they listed them as supporting it, but not Sprint.
That's really funny.
But I don't know what Sprint's using that.
Slide. Yeah, I don't know either.
It's Sprint. I mean, they can use whatever they want.
I don't have that. I don't have that picture handy. Like I know I took a picture of that screen, but like I don't have it handy. So
yeah, and I don't. Yeah, I mean it's Sprint. So I mean I don't know if it matters a lot. They're a small network, but there are a lot of people on there. But
why?
I don't know. They're cheap. That's why they're cheap.
That's why. Yes.
They can't be too cheap. I mean, Kevin Durant is one of their spokespeoples. So,
Poor
spokesperson.
KD. I don't know what he's doing.
They must
Getting
have good
paid, I
service
guess.
over in Oklahoma.
Does Brady even have service in Oklahoma City? That's what I want to know.
I haven't checked their coverage map in a couple of years, so I'm not too familiar with it.
I would say probably not. All right, so Android Pay, that was a big announcement. Let's see, Google Now on tap. So Google Now on tap is basically the super advancement of Google Now. So rather than Google Now having its own sort of standalone system that you have to swipe into with cards and all that stuff, Google Now on tap means you can bring up Google Now on top of whatever you're doing and then have it sort of contextually figure out what it is you want or what you need it to do and suggest apps and other things. And it's actually going to be pretty awesome, except it's not ready. It's not on the M preview. Google's obviously still working on it. Do you guys have anything to say about Google Now on tap as I try to pull it up?
No, I don't have too much to say. I mean, I think it'll be cool, but I haven't been able to use it much or anything like that. So,
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, it looks neat, and I think the nice thing about it is it has the potential to make Google Now feel a lot more in touch with what you're actually doing. So, which is kind of been the problem with it, right? Like where with Siri, like you're telling Siri to do things. With Now, it's like if you don't really tell it to do things, it just does it on its own. But with this, it kind of gives you a little bit more control to say, hey, this is what I'm working on. This is what I want you to give me information for. So.
Yeah, and so like Google's examples were, like say you get an email and somebody says, hey, we're going to check out a movie tonight. We're going to see Tomorrowland. And you can long press on home, pops up Google Now on tap, and then it automatically pulls up stuff about Tomorrowland and the trailer shortcut and apps and the way to book tickets or buy tickets and all of that stuff. So
all that stuff, yeah, which is good. So it's contextual and it gives you options on that. And that's exactly what you would want too, right? Because you don't want Google Now to like go like, oh, you're talking about Tomorrowland. Let me just start prompting you with all these notifications about things you might want. Like that's not what you want, right? So that kind of puts you in control and saying, okay, well, give me stuff for this, this specifically. So.
Yeah, so it should be cool once it rolls out. It's obviously one of those things that they'll have to build up over time, which is fun because then it's something we can sort of watch grow into something that it should just get crazy, crazy powerful. Like the few examples they use were like the movie one, or if you're listening to some music and you pull it up and you just ask who's singing this song right now, and it can tell you that because it figures all that stuff out based on who knows what. If you're in a text message sort of string with somebody and you're talking about restaurants, you can pull it up there and it'll like read the fact that you're talking about that restaurant and give you directions to it, like call it, all that stuff. So yeah, it's very powerful stuff.
I am curious how they're going to actually implement it on other devices though, because it's one thing to tap and hold on the home button in like a Google phone, but like on a Samsung phone, that's not going to work. So I'm curious how that'll actually end up working out.
Yeah, because if you tap and hold on Home Now, it launches Google Now, but this is kind of separate.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll have to see.
Yeah, I would imagine with Samsung phones or something like that, it'll be a tap and hold to wherever you are, which will open Now on tap, and then there'll be another button that says launch into Google Now, and so you can just tap another button.
Yeah, maybe.
It kind of works like that with the preview actually right now. If you swipe, well, they've totally broken the swiping into Google Now on the preview. So even if you swipe up, like you want to go to Google Now, it actually pops up this little thing that's sort of like a mini Now on tap, and it says this has been disabled, and there's like another button you can hit to then launch Google Now. So I'm guessing that'll be kind of how it works. Like you can always launch Now on tap, and then there's always a button just to get into full Google Now, I guess. So. Let's see. So Now on tap. So that's not coming out yet. It could be a while. Google's plan with Android M was to release, I think, 2 more bug fixing previews before they get to the stable. So, we might not see Now on tap until the next preview shows up when they squash a bunch of bugs, or they could just push it in an update. Who knows? I would imagine it'll come in the next preview though. Let's see. What else with Android M? I had up the whole change log. Like they've changed some things where you can actually tell, like if your phone has an SD card, you can tell it to use recognize the SD card slot as internal storage, which is kind of big. There's things like that. There's deep app linking. Oh, I was going to talk about. So one of the things I thought Android M is more about like back end control. So when you look at all of the stuff that Android M has changed, Google really just gave you more control over stuff like permissions, right? We didn't talk about that. So with apps now, you can in Android M, you can just take away permissions to things, and you can do it on an individual level, or you can pull up like every single app that's accessing your phone, and you can just start like unchecking them and take off. And so they've given you all of this new control over like apps and how much data they're using, and if you want to turn that off, and app permissions, and you can turn those off individually, or like I just said, by permission. You can give apps specific permission to use certain links to launch. Like if you click on a Google Drive link, to have it automatically always open Drive. And so so they've done a lot of that stuff, and you can control all of that. You can now control your default apps in a new UI, and like there's all sorts of stuff that they've given you power over, and they've all sort of consolidated into one area that you can access, which is the app manager, which is also kind of nice. It just seems like Google, because Lollipop was the big like UI change, Android M is now the background change, where it's just control over everything, and everyone seems to care about that. How many times did Apple reference privacy the other day?
Right.
So
yeah, well, and the permission stuff is actually pretty great, because that's I mean, that's been on iOS for a long time, and that's definitely something that I know I've wanted on Android, just like, because sometimes you're installing an app and it's like, oh, these are permissions it's asking for. It's like, wait, what do you want permission for exactly? Like, what are you going to get access to, and what does it actually, like, it's not always clear, and it's just kind of weird. Like, sometimes it's like, oh yeah, we can read all your emails. It's like, well, I don't know if I want you to do that then.
Right.
But I don't have a choice though. It's either use the app or leave it be.
Right.
So I've always appreciated that on iOS, just being able to go in and adjust all that. So I'm glad that that's coming. Most people won't see it for another like 2 years, but I'm glad that it's coming.
Seriously. Like, it's taken long for Lollipop to roll out because, as Tim mentioned, it's a bug-infested terror.
Yeah.
And so now Android M's here, and look, we'll get some previews, and then they'll release a stable version, this winter, this late fall or whatever. But yeah, like everyone will finally be on hopefully stable Lollipop by then, and then Android M will be out and introduce a whole new set of whatever. So
yeah, I feel like Lollipop has rolled out pretty quickly for most people.
So it did. It's just crappy. That's the problem.
That's the thing. Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah,
it's like everyone. So last year with KitKat, because Motorola was so fast. Remember KitKat came out, Motorola pushed it to the Verizon Moto X first gen in like a week or whatever that was, or the year before. I guess it's been a year and a half now. And so with KitKat, everyone was like, Motorola was so fast, and then everyone started getting on board. And then when Lollipop got here, everyone wanted to race to be first. Like, I remember HTC did their guarantees, and Motorola was talking about it, and LG, I think, even made some sort of guarantee, which they never hit. And Samsung just doesn't say anything because they don't really care, I don't think. And so all these companies really did race to adopt 5.0 and then 5.0.1, and then it broke everyone's phone. And so it's kind of been a mess. And so then everyone waited for 5.0.2, which caused delays. And then now 5.1's out, and so everyone's having to play catch up. This has probably been one of the worst. While it was fast initially, and a lot of people do have Lollipop, it's kind of been one of the worst updates in a while because there's so many bugs. I don't know how many emails Tim and I get a day of people saying like, the Lollipop update on my G3 like broke my phone and it now sucks. Things like that.
What else is there? And they want us to fix it, but
yeah, a lot of them think it's our update. They say your update broke my phone. Those are the best.
Yeah, no, it does all sorts of weird. Like, as my boss has, I think it's like the LG. What's the Verizon tablet that LG makes?
G-Pad,
something like that. He's got whatever that thing is. And so he just got Lollipop for it, I think yesterday or something like that. So he was installing it, and it broke a bunch of crap on it. So
I'm sure that it did, though.
Yeah. So he's just frustrated because he's like trying to use it and it just changed a bunch of stuff, and he has no idea what's going on. And it's just, like there weren't like that many changes, but like it just like ripped out of it. Like he had like a settings thing, and that was gone and all that. So just kind of messy. I think we lost Kellen.
What up, Ron?
But we can keep going. So we haven't talked about Google Photos yet.
Nope, we haven't talked about photos, and I know that is something you adore. You've been on Twitter and social media talking about Google Photos for the past month and a half.
That's right.
So you want to give us a quick overview of what Google Photos is, and then I'll give you my feelings on it?
Yeah, yeah. So they announced Google Photos. We were waiting for this for a long time, right? So they already had Photos, Google Plus Photos, which was all tied into Google Plus, and a lot of people didn't like that, myself included. Like it was cool to automatically back up. And my friends with Android phones that were like, "Oh, my phone storage is full. What do I do?" I'd be like, "Oh, let's get you on Google Plus, get all your stuff out of there, and then you can clear it."
But the problem is that it was tied to Google Plus, which
It's tied to
is
Google Plus, yeah,
pretty terrible social
yeah,
network in my
yeah.
opinion.
Well, it's okay, but it's just like for me, I was, whenever people would ask me about it, I'm like, well, it's an option. You can do it, especially if you have an Android phone. It's super easy to set up, but it's tied to a social network. So like it's all your photos are on something that's designed to share things. So that's, it's a little risky. That's why I don't use Flickr for all my photos either, because tying all your photographs, like your family history and things like that, like to something that's designed to share them doesn't make sense. So, so now they have Photos, which is out. It's a separate application. And it's amazing. It's great. It does all sorts of things. Like some of this stuff was already in there. Like I think Plus Photos already made GIFs, and they had like Auto Awesome and all that stuff. But it has, so you can tell me which stuff, because obviously I wasn't using it, which stuff was already there. So like I think GIFs were already there, right? Like
yeah. So you upload photos that were all
like
taken
first
in
shot. Yeah. So that was there. Obviously Auto Awesome was there. I knew that. Was the Stories thing in there before?
Mm-hmm. Stories was there.
Okay, so there's that. And then what about the video thing, like automatically making videos?
Automatically making videos.
Yes.
It was.
Like,
okay.
Yes, like it would send you highlight videos of things.
Right.
Is that what you're talking about? Like basically a highlight video? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure
okay.
it's been doing that for a while.
So I think as I've been discovering it, those are the things that are really killer for me. And I love that it's not tied to a social network. So like whenever I've taken burst shots, put in either GIFs, I did like my wife's graduating this Sunday with her master's. I'm very excited for her. And I did a quick graduation shoot for her so we could send out the grad announcements and all that. And so I did some burst shots with her on my camera, and so those turned into GIFs. And because I did it on my Fuji Xe1, they're all like super high resolution GIFs, which is cool.
Oh, that's sweet. Yeah.
They actually look kind of 3D as I had a couple shots of her walking towards me, and they look really, really cool because they're so, it's not like a camera stuff where it gets downsampled and looks like crap. Like it actually looks pretty good. So it's doing stuff like that, stories. And so I've been like sending videos to my family with stuff which I wrote about, and they were just like freaking out. And it's just crazy because it just puts these clips together, adds music to it. Sometimes the music is, I'll adjust that or I'll pull a clip out or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's pretty crazy. Like it just goes, oh yeah, you might want this, 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 and throws it together. I'm like, yep, that's perfect. That's great. Let me shoot that out. That's awesome. So I'm really, really loving it. I set it to use the original, so it's uploading everything and it's using my drive storage, which is pretty cheap. If you want to bump up, and use that, I think it's worth it personally. I wouldn't use they say that it works up to, I think, 8 megapixels for images, and then videos 1080p.
I thought it was 16.
Or yeah, 16. You're right, 16. And then otherwise it'll downsample it. So, but I think it looks pretty good. I don't know where that voice is coming from.
Sorry, that's me. I have the windows open because it's like 80-something degrees here. But
yeah,
of course,
tell me more about how hot it is over there in Oregon.
Yeah, but up here, you mean? But the workers felt like they needed to mow my lawn. So
okay.
Bad timing. Sorry, I'll mute myself. Go ahead.
That's okay. So they have, so you can upload everything you've got on there onto Google Photos completely for free, all your pictures, all your videos, and so if you have like a 4K video because you're shooting with your Sony phone on 4K for some reason, it'll just downsample that on the free version to 1080p. And if you want to keep them all high resolution, which I definitely recommend, especially if this is your only backup of all your photos, do the original version. And then you just pay for the more storage, the storage is actually really affordable. So I think it's $2 for 100 gigs or something like that.
It's pretty cheap, yeah.
Yeah, and then if you want to bump up to, I think it's a terabyte. I don't remember the pricing, but it's cheap. It's cheaper than Dropbox. So which is good. So I'm doing that, and I'm still keeping Dropbox. That way I've got 2 copies. So if you want to be crazy about backups, you still have that option. Which you should be. You should never only have one backup, people. But it's really, really neat. Like it does all that stuff. It's all built in. The apps are super, super fast. As you're scrolling through photos, they load super, super quickly, including on the web. It's a knockout product. It's really good. Over the past couple of days, I've been trying out Apple's Photos, which has similar apps and everything else like that. This is still better by far. Just because the stuff it does automatically. That's the thing. So if I'm going to use Apple Photos for tagging people, you have to go through and manually tag everybody in individual photos. Like it doesn't just
Oh.
guess for you. Like it's like it'll try. It'll be like, oh, is this person? But you have to go. Like I have 30,000 photos. I'm not doing that. Like whereas with
Right.
Google, it's just like, oh, we think this is this person, and sometimes it has duplicates.
Mhm.
It thinks my dog is a cat. Sometimes, like there's some times where it doesn't do it, but the vast majority of the time, it gets so close. And I think the big thing for people is like if you've got something, like I said, I've got 30,000 photos. The only reason I have that is because on average, like since I got a smartphone, on average, my wife and I are taking more than 7,000 photos a year. So we're just taking massive amounts of photos, and so it makes it difficult to go back and organize it.
Oh
That's
yeah.
that's the painful process with it. And so like with Apple stuff, it's all manual. Like you're quote unquote in control, which means you have to go and fix it, right? Like you got to go
Right.
make albums and do all that stuff. And Google's just doing that for you, and that's so hugely powerful. Like if I just want to find like on Apple Photos, if I know the date, then I can go find it. But like if I don't know, like I can just type in Google vacation in 2008 and it finds it. Like
Mm.
I can type in my dog and it finds it. I can type in an object and it finds it. It's insane. I saw Russell Ivanovich from Shifty Jelly, the makers of Pocket Casts.
Mhm.
He tweeted a photo that he had a picture of a photograph showing the Sydney Opera House, and he typed that in and Google found it. So there's no metadata associated with it. It's a picture of a picture, but it still found
Right.
it. It's the search stuff. It's like having Google search for your entire photo library, and
How did they do it?
it's crazy. It's just like so being able to do that, like that's the hard part with photos, right? It's having the storage. They have a free option for you if you want to do that, and it's super easy to set up. You sign in with your Google account and say yes, please upload all my crap, and it does it. Works great on it's slow to upload. I will say that. Like uploading all my photos took longer than it should have. It doesn't use your full bandwidth, but that's good if you like still want to use the internet while you're uploading.
Right.
Which I appreciate because it doesn't have any bandwidth controls like Drive does. I'm assuming that'll come eventually, but it works. It got everything uploaded pretty quickly. I had all 30,000 up in maybe a day or two, pretty fast. And it's just the organization thing. Like I don't want to have to go and organize my things into I'm at 30,000 right now. It's going to take me a year to go through and organize those into albums and like I just want to be able to find my pictures. That's it. Like I don't want to have to go through and do a bunch of work. And so it's a really, really good product. And I think that it shows that everybody was talking about that after I/O. That was the big thing because it is so freaking good. Like, so if you're not using Google Photos, if you were worried about it because it's tied to Google Plus before, like I was, go use it now. Like, and like I said, maybe have another backup. I've got my stuff on Dropbox as well. Maybe use both, but for sure use Google Photos, especially for organization and finding stuff. The apps are fantastic, including on iOS. Like I've only got one bug on the iOS app. So like across the board, they're really good service.
Well, what I've really liked is sharing, how simple they made that. Like, if you want to share something, like Dropbox, when you share something, it
Ugh.
goes to a Dropbox page, and you can like download or see a crappy preview of the photo, and then you have to figure out what you want to do with it. It's really confusing. This is like, grab a bunch of photos, send them to a person who doesn't have anything to do with Google Photos, and it just brings up a link, and they can just go through all those photos.
Including with like the stories and all that. Like I just send a link to my wife, and it just opens a web page and it scrolls through. It works perfectly fine.
Yeah, and it's private. They can't see anything else. You're just sending those photos. It's so like that's been really huge for me. Just sending photos of my son and stuff like that to people.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really great. And so I was using the Google Plus photos before, so I'm pretty familiar with it. They've clearly just, like I said, the sharing part and just the app is better now, and it doesn't have this weird tie-in with Google Plus anymore, which is awesome. It was crazy too. Like they cut that off immediately, right? Like there have been rumors that they were going to move photos out, and the day they released photos, there was a simultaneous update for Google Plus that killed off photos from Google Plus. So like they separated it.
All their documentation was changed that day. Yeah, they went across the board and did it. Yeah, I think there's a couple things that they need to work on with it. It's like one thing is it's like they have the people section when you go to search, and you can't name them. And I think they should. They're talking. I've heard some rumors that they're talking about adding that. I think they need to add that.
Well, it would be nice if you could go in and say like, I don't want to edit people out of there.
Yeah, but I think like bare minimum, like me being able to like type in my wife's name in a search that's a lot more intuitive than me going and finding her face.
Yeah, than trying to find her face. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit more natural for search.
Like I had this, I posted a couple of shots of like my brother was like he goes to a lot of Blazer games, and so like I saw him on TV one night and like took a picture of him. So he's in the crowd, right? And there's like 80, like 100 people around him. So my Google Photos now is filled with all of the
Oh
faces from those
no.
people in that crowd. And so like I can't get rid of that. Like if when I pull up the people section, I just get to look at all these people that just happen to be sitting next to my brother that night. So that's kind of
Did you
annoying.
take a bunch of photos of it or something?
I took like 2 photos, I think, but it pulled in, it
I'm
just
surprised
grabbed
they did it for all of
all of the
them.
faces.
Yeah, because it seems
So
to rank people in the list based on how many pictures you have of them. So like my wife is always in the number one spot because she's the person I have, and so like it keeps
yeah,
going down. But I'm surprised that
it
it's
does.
filling up with that if you have only two
But yeah,
photos.
so like you can't really see the photo, but you can see there's like a bunch of people there, and yeah,
Yeah.
it grabbed like everyone's face, and yeah, they are kind of ranked towards the bottom, but I think I took 3 photos, and so yeah, there's and
That's
it
comical.
also yeah like Picasa like old photo integration that kind of merged with photos at some point, like that added a whole bunch of photos I don't want in there that would take
Mm.
me forever to get rid of, but otherwise,
Yeah.
just
Overall, it's good. They need
overall it's
to
pretty
add
good.
some of so like on the apps, you can edit out like you can pull clips out of videos and adjust the music and all that. You can't do that on the web yet for some reason.
Hmm.
So they need to add that. And it'd be nice if they added the option right now. Like if Google makes a video for you, you can't like add another video or add another image to it. It's just you can take stuff out, but you can't add stuff in.
Hmm.
So I'd like them to do that, and then maybe even like add music that I own to a video. So tie in with like Google Play Music. Like if I own the music, it's
Oh
not
yeah.
like that'd be nice to add that in as well. Just some things they could add and do on that, but overall, it knocks everybody else out of the park across the board with all its features. Even though there's a few spots where I'd say, oh yeah, you can add that, but overall, it just kills everybody else.
Yeah, they definitely did a good job with it. That's for sure. It was kind of the big app that was announced at Google I/O, for sure. Yeah. All right. Well, what else from I/O? That's pretty much it, right? Those are all the big things.
Should be.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, there was Brillo and there was some VR stuff. Google's getting into VR. But those are all kind of small things. Like Google Maps is going to have offline functionality finally. Like those are all like these little things that were announced on the side that are big, but yeah. All right, so want to talk WWDC really quick?
Sure.
So WWDC Apple's conference was this week, and as everyone thought, they announced new version of OS X and iOS 9 and new version of WatchOS 2, I believe it is. Like Android M Preview, all of that stuff that Apple announced is also in preview. If you're a developer, you could get it now. There's probably other ways to get it, I'm sure. Then there will be public betas eventually, and then stable. Like Google's sort of on now the same schedule as Apple, because Apple's kind of been doing this for a few years. Google's now doing it too. So, anyways, everything is beta now. They announced a bunch of stuff, like none of it's fully new or blowing anyone away. It's stuff that like needed to be on iOS and in Apple products, and now it is kind of thing. The big thing though was Apple Music, because Apple Music is their the music service that everyone thought they were going to announce at some point, especially once they acquired Beats. And so I think the big thing for us is that Apple Music's actually coming to Android, which kind of surprised some people. If you think about it in business sense, it makes 100% sense. And Apple would probably be stupid to have not released it on Android, or they're not going to yet. It'll come later this fall, but there's billions of people on Android, and if you want, the $10 a month from those people. So, anyway, so Apple Music, obviously, it has their huge library behind it. There's some features in there that I'm not sure I fully understand the whole point of them, like their live DJ thing and
Yeah.
whatever Drake's Connect thing is or something.
The Connect thing looks pretty sweet.
So what's Connect again? Isn't that just
Yeah.
like Drake compose lyrics? Like I don't really think
Well,
that's
just
that
anybody.
cool.
But yeah, so basically, it's funny because when Jimmy Iovine was doing it, he was talking about how it's this revolutionary product and there's 3 components to it, and somebody in the crowd laughed because Steve Jobs' famous iPhone announcement where he said it's 3 things: it's a phone, it's an internet communications
Oh,
device, it's an iPod. It's a phone, your pizza says, "Are you getting it?" And so
yeah.
like he was like kind of echoing that, but he did not know that, so he just like awkwardly
Okay.
turned around, thought maybe the wrong slide was up, and was like, "Oh, okay." Kept going. But yeah, so that's those 3 things. So it's unclear how much of their library is available. So right now they're saying 30 million songs, I think is what they're saying, which is Spotify, and Spotify is more than. So
Okay.
it sounds like they don't have the deals completely ironed out.
Okay.
But and it's somehow separate from iTunes Match, so they say you can upload. So anything that they don't have, they'll match it, but it's separate from iTunes Match, which was kind of the same thing, but just for your iTunes library. So it's not totally clear how that stuff's going to work, and we'll find out because it's coming out on iOS at the end of the month, I think.
Yeah, June 30th.
Yeah, so we'll see how it actually gets ironed out. But regardless, it's a ton of songs, and it looks like you can upload your stuff, just like you can with Google Play Music, which is good.
Okay.
And to me, that's always been the big differentiator for Google Play Music is that you've got the streaming component, but if they don't have something, you can upload it. It's on their servers, so you don't have to do the BS local syncing that Spotify has had. Like it's fully integrated. So for me, that's always made Google Play Music the best service. So it's nice to see Apple doing this as well. It looks like we'll see exactly how it gets ironed out. So it's got that component, and then it has the Connect component, which is basically where artists, whether they're signed or unsigned, can upload pretty much anything. So it's kind of like Tumblr for artists is the way I would think about it. So you can upload like videos, you can upload lyrics, you can upload pictures, like whatever you want, and it's a way for you to connect and interact with your fans that obviously they could have done on their own websites before, but it's a little different having it in the app where you're listening to music and you can like go like, oh, like, hey, you're listening to Florence and the Machine, for example, you know, and say that they've got.
Sorry, that just seems like a lot of bloatware crap to me. Like, I don't want all that stuff spamming my app. Why is my app gotta be so much like thicker, you know, with all this excess stuff that I don't want?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm assuming you'll have options for like if you're getting notified for that kind of stuff or whatever. But sure. Personally, like for artists that I love, I like the idea that I can see more behind the scenes stuff. Like if I really like an artist, I will dive deep and get as much as I can from them. So I like the idea of having the option to do that with certain artists. So that's what that is, and then they have this stupid 24-hour radio station which nobody cares about, and it's just an extension of the idea that Beats had that hey, this is not, you know, an algorithm that a computer came up with for this playlist. This is a human making this, and that humans make better decisions than computers in terms of what song to play next.
When they played, when they played that little clip it live or whatever, when it was like coming at you live from Brooklyn and LA and blah blah blah, I was like, holy crap, this sounds just like normal radio, and I hate normal radio. Right. Like, it's just the most annoying type of sound ever.
Yeah, I don't want to hear a DJ and anything like. So I know some people are into that. Like some people like that. I am not one of those people. I just want to listen to my music. Like I'm the DJ, so you know I can handle it. I know what I like. So I don't know why they added that component. Honestly, that seems to be a weird fit. I think they just wanted to have three things to kind of say like, hey, this app's doing all this.
Yeah, it's just another station where they can play countless repeats of Taylor Swift and all this other garbage that I don't listen to. I know other people love T Swift, but
T Swift I'm fine with playing on repeat. I could do without what's his name, Stay With Me and all that. If I hear that song one more time.
Oh, Sam Smith. Oh gosh,
he is seriously
guy, dude. He can go away.
Yes, he can go away now. He could have gotten away like 3 months ago.
Yeah. So overall, it looks pretty good, and that's coming to Android. I think it's a little weird that they aren't highlighting the opportunity. Like to me, like that's the big selling point, not the you know Tumblr for artists or any of that other. Obviously, not the radio station. It's hey, you can have all of your music for $10 a month, or if you're a family, up to 6 people for $15 a month. That's an insane proposition value.
Yeah, so did we talk about price?
Yeah, we haven't mentioned that.
Yes, yeah. So that the price, right? So it's $10 a month individually, and then you can have a family of up to 6 people, right? And it's $14.99 a month. The only thing we don't know about that is if there's limitations, like how many hours or how many songs or what. If it's just unlimited. I just don't know that they've fully said. We'll know obviously. Well, 20 days, but
those are the same plans that Beats had, and Beats didn't have those limitations. So I'm assuming they'll cross over.
So that's a pretty big deal, right? Like your whole family. So my wife and I, for example, she has to have my Google account that's attached to my Play Music account on her phone so that she can access our whole music, because Google Play Music doesn't have a sharing thing, which is stupid, which it needs really badly. And so, not that I want to switch to Apple Music, but I could, and then I could pay just $5 more than I think I'm probably still on their promo rate of $8 a month, but pay $5 more a month, and then she doesn't have to have my Google account logged into her phone. And then, also with Google Play Music, you can only listen on one device at a time. So, like, if we have our Sonos going in another room, but I want to listen to it on my computer or when I'm out for a run, I can't. Like it kills me. And so Google Play Music has some work to do in that. But so yeah, $15 a month, and not only could my wife and I be on there, like I could probably have my brother on there if I, you know what I mean, or like my son who's not even 2 might want to listen to music.
Couple years.
Yeah, so I think that's like the biggest. Well, other than the library, right? We all know iTunes has or whatever. The iTunes Music Store, or is it just iTunes? Because iTunes is the app.
Yeah, it's whatever. Yeah, but I mean, iTunes has almost everything.
It has basically everything, and gets exclusives first, and
there's tons
all
of
that stuff, right?
Like, that is like, it's those two things. Like, and I feel like people don't realize, like, especially people that use Spotify, they're like, oh, well, if you're missing something, you do local sync. I don't want to do local sync. When I want to have a new song, I want to have it right freaking now, not when I go back to my computer to sync locally over Wi-Fi. Like, I'm sorry, that's not good enough. Like, that's the proposition value, for Google Play. I can upload it from anywhere if I need to, and chances are Google's going to have it. So if they don't have it for streaming, I can buy it right there, and that's just in my library. I'm done. I don't have to deal with it. Like, that's the huge proposition value. Like, this idea of like, oh, you can have most of your music. Not interested. Sorry, Spotify. I want to have everything. Sorry, I already owe all you guys. That's why I left, because like, I don't want to have 2 music apps. I want to just have all of my music in one place. And so if I can get that for $10 a month as an individual, or 15 for my family, that's huge. Like, that is tremendous value, and people, and I feel like they did a bad job with that last half of the presentation. And like, pretty much everybody's panned it, even though it's a good announcement we're excited about. They just did a bad job of presenting it because it's such a big deal. Like, music is a problem that should have been solved. Like, it was kind of solved in the iPod era, way back in 2001, right? And then it's just kind of languished in the area where you had like streaming, but it didn't have everything. It wasn't very, the quality wasn't always good. Like, this is the moment, I think, where, and Google could do something like this too, obviously, if they continue to make licensing deals. But I think between Google Play Music and this gives you the opportunity to actually have all your music in one app on your phone, and even better, have it with all your family. Like, that's just huge.
I totally agree. Is Kellen frozen?
I don't know. I think so.
Anyway, well, are we done with WWDC? Well, I mean, we got iOS 9, OS X El Capitan, which is in Yosemite, so why they didn't call it something else entirely, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think, and that was kind of interesting. So I think they were going to do the same thing that Google did, where Google talked about how they were going to like slow down with the release. Like how they're kind of taking off. I think they were going to do the same thing too, because they mentioned like, and we, when our marketing team was going around looking for a new name, like,
oh my god, that was offensive.
That was, I thought it was hilarious, but
of course you did.
But like, they're saying that they picked El Capitan because it was in Yosemite, and then they didn't talk about it again at all. Like, they like left that joke in there, and I think they were planning on talking about how they were slowing down with stuff. And then when Google did it, I think they decided not to kind of differentiate themselves. That's my guess. Who knows? But I felt like there were hints that they were planning on doing it, and then just eased off of it. But I would say the only other thing that was probably interesting that's user-facing was some of the new stuff they're doing with Siri, where they're doing some of that kind of Google Now stuff, but it's all local on the device, and it's not associated with your Apple ID or anything else like that. So obviously they have some server stuff happening, so like for location stuff and things like that, they're doing that, but that stuff is not associated with your Apple ID. And everything else that they can do on the device, they're doing on the device. So in terms of like guessing what kind of apps you're doing, you can do like a search now in Spotlight. It's like if you're looking for a podcast, and that can be deep linked to your podcast app of choice. Like, it's pretty sweet. So which is nice, because Spotlight's been kind of languishing on iOS.
Spotlight is seriously like the worst thing ever. Every time I open Spotlight and try to search for something, it never comes up with anything, and I end up just tapping go to the web. I don't know what you're supposed to use Spotlight for, to tell you the truth.
It's like on OS 10, especially in Yosemite, it's actually pretty good now. But on the phone, like, they ripped it out of iOS 7 for some reason, and then they brought it back in an update. And so, but like, it was really janky. Like, you'd pull down to search and you type in a query, and it just wouldn't come up with anything. Like,
it never does. Ever.
Yeah. It was janky. So it's gotten better. They rolled out, I think the last update was where they said they like fixed a bunch of stuff, and so it has been more consistent for me. But there's still times where I swipe down, type something in, and just nothing happens. It doesn't come up with anything, and so I end up just opening Safari. But this looks.
Haven't they moved it now? It's like off to the left now instead of a swipe down. Right. So it's kind of like Google now, and there's supposed to be information.
Well, that's how it used to be. Like an iOS
Yeah, yeah.
3 through 6 or whatever is on that left page. Yeah.
Yeah. But now when you open it, isn't it supposed to already be showing you things, relevant
Yeah.
information, and yeah.
Yeah, so like guess so like when they added in 8, like if you double tap for multitasking, it has like your recently contacted people. So I'm assuming that's just moving over to Spotlight permanently, which is nice to have there. And then it suggests apps automatically and things you might want to do. But then like as you're typing, it'll do stuff too. So looks pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, some of that stuff was, kind of like what Google Now on tap was, which everyone went ooh and ah at. And so it's a pretty big deal. I think it's tied to Siri, and I think Siri has, such a bad reputation that I think that maybe took away from it for me anyway. But the stuff they showed was actually cool and very useful.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of people don't realize because a lot of people stopped using Siri, but Siri has actually gotten a lot better in the last year or so. So like when I was first testing it out, just like with maps, like it was hit and miss. Sometimes it'd be spot on, and then sometimes it's completely wrong. So the voice recognition has gotten way better than what it used to be. So they've been continuing to work on it. It's actually gotten better over time, but I think people have used it less over time because it wasn't as accurate initially. But it's actually gotten way, way, way better. So
that's good. Sweet. All right. So anything else from WWDC? It's kind of like I/O, and it was, little things here and there, improvements here and there, nothing massive. But that's kind of where we're at. Everything's maturing, right? Everything's maturing, other than Windows Phone, Windows Mobile.
That's just aging out.
Yeah, I don't know how that's still alive or a thing actually.
I see, like especially after was it build that just happened?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it was.
Like where they were saying that you can compile your Android and iOS apps to run straight on Windows. It's like, just drop Windows Phone, guys. Like, we get it. You lost. Like, get over it.
Yeah. I don't understand why they're still even attempting.
I don't get it.
Yeah. All right. So outside of I/O and WWDC, just some other things to toss out real quick. The Galaxy S6 Active is now official. It has camo, and it can withstand some water and some drops and things like that. Otherwise, it's still just the S6, same display, internals. Does have a fancy new action button, so you can launch a compass when you're lost somewhere, I guess.
I think it's ugly, too.
It's pretty ugly. Which
is not surprising. All the active models are ugly.
Yes, they are. At least there's the 2 camo versions, and there's a plain one. So if you don't want a camo phone for 2 years, you could get a plain one. So we're supposed to have one soon, and so we'll give it a test. It does have a giant 3,500 milliamp hour battery, which is kind of awesome. True. So I mean that's a third larger than the Galaxy S6's battery, which is kind of crazy. So Tim and I were talking about this today, and Samsung pulled their full spec sheet for it. So we don't have the official information anymore, but I want to know what the dimensions are. Like, how thick is it? Because it doesn't look that much bigger. Like, somebody sent us a picture today of it in hand. It doesn't look that much bigger than the S6. Like, how did they cram a battery with that much more, capacity? I mean, S6 people should be a little mad about that, but I guess who was it today? It was Phil Schiller, I think, was talking. He was defending how thin the iPhone is. I think Gruber or something was asking him, like, if you made it a little bit thicker, like, it could have a bigger battery. And he was like, no, it's thin. It's this perfect balance. And, Phil Schiller's full of shit. So,
yeah, I didn't watch it live, because Gruber did a talk show live last night. So I'm waiting for it to come out. But yeah, he did that. I guess he was talking about how they can still do 16 gigabyte phones because of the cloud, which is like, somebody else gave that answer a while ago, and it's still a BS answer. It's like, I don't have all my stuff in the cloud. I want it on my phone. That's why I bought a phone. I didn't buy a cloud.
It was like when Google did the Nexus 4 with 8 gig, and everyone went, what?
Yes, yeah, that was it.
Yeah. Well, it's like the Nexus Player. It only has Nexus Player of 8 gig, I'm pretty sure. And like the other day, it told me I had no more room, and I have like 3 things installed. It just happens to be like those Walking Dead games, which are like 2 gig apiece or something. So if you have like 2 or 3 big games on the Nexus Player, you're done. You can't install anything else.
And for something like that, like if you're just using the Nexus Player like literally as a like media thing, then it's fine, right? Because you're streaming pretty much. Like in those instances, it's fine. But it's like I can't stream a Walking Dead game, so
a gaming rig too, though.
Yeah. So if you're gonna let me stream the game like I can on say like the Shield, then okay, that's an option. But otherwise, 8 gigs is not enough. 16 is not enough. I run into storage things on my phone every so often. It's a pain in the butt. And the thing is, like, I know how to go fix it. My mother-in-law, not so much. So like That's the thing.
Right. But just back to the battery thing. So Samsung, right, like the S6 is it's nice and thin, but I think everyone would have said, you could go a little bit thicker, first of all, to get rid of the camera hump, but also to get, that 3,500 milliamp hour battery. I think everyone, and I think Apple and Samsung, they both do this. They're competing to still be incredibly thin and thinner than the other.
Yeah.
And it's like we would all take just a little bit more thickness to get a battery that's that much bigger.
Right. Well, and that's. Go ahead,
Sorry, the S6 Active. Sorry, I just want to talk for 1 second. The S6 Active is 8.8 millimeters thick, according
8.8.
to one spec sheet that I see.
Okay. And so what's S6? S6? It's like 6.9 or something.
Yeah.
Oh, it's small.
Yeah, it's a skinny little dude. Well, so 8 point whatever though. That's not that much bigger, and they packed in a really big battery. So.
No, yeah, 8.8 is not too big, but the S6, the regular one, not the Edge, is 6.8 millimeters, so 2 millimeters thicker, which, I mean, really,
millimeters
in the scheme of things.
Yeah. And the Active's probably slightly wider, I would guess, too, and bulkier, and because it has that casing on it. So I get it. It's just, we would everyone in this world would take a slightly thicker phone if it meant that much bigger of a battery. So
True.
Whatever. Someday maybe they'll figure that out. It was actually funny, not to get back on my boy Schiller, but he was talking about how bigger batteries take longer to charge, and it's like, yeah, everyone else has figured out this thing called quick charging, Phil, which I'm sure Apple with their next phone will
invent.
Try to. Yes. I was going to say invent. They have to get on that. Everyone else has fast charging, and everyone else is pushing it because it's actually a pretty big deal.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is like, even if you don't have fast charging, if you put a big enough battery in there that I don't have to charge it during the middle of the day, it doesn't matter how long it takes to charge.
Right.
If I charge it over, I don't care if it takes 8 hours. I'm sleeping. So
right, because everyone charges their phone at night. Yeah.
So. Yeah. So if it's big enough to where I can get through the day, it really doesn't. That's not the reasons he gave from what I've been hearing from people. Just it doesn't sound good. So
yeah, it's actually one of those I'm probably going to listen to as well, just because it sounded like everything he said was just complete garbage. It was all marketing speak, and he beat around the bush on every single subject that was thrown at him. So.
Yeah, which is not, that's typical of an Apple exec. Jobs would do that all the time. So. Yeah.
But at least he would hammer it home with some passion, so you might believe him.
Yeah, you sometimes believe the lies. Like
everything Phil Schiller says is fake.
Yeah, somebody tweeted, what was it? Oh, it was. I think it was Chris Chavez retweeted like the video of Jobs in 2003 talking about how people don't want to rent their music. And how if you paid like 99 cents a pop for like a stream or whatever, he's like, I don't want to pay thousands of dollars to listen to my favorite song. I want to own it. It's like, well, nobody was paying thousands of dollars, so
right.
It's a straw man argument. So like if you actually listen to what he's saying, you're like, that doesn't make any sense. But in the moment, he's so heated up, you're like, oh yeah, I believe it. Whatever you say, Steve.
Jobs, passion. Let's see. So Active comes out this Friday, $199 on contract. Who knows how much it'll cost if you do one of those monthly payment things, but it's coming. Let's see. Tim, you want to talk Android Auto for a minute? So Android Auto has been out, and there's new updates coming, and it'll get better. Tim actually has, it's Pioneer, right? Tim has like this top-of-the-line Pioneer Android Auto thing. So yeah, talk about it. I don't even really know anything about Android Auto. Well, I mean, I know what it is, but I've never used it.
Yeah, thankfully, there's not too much to know. Android Auto is pretty darn simplistic in terms of, an OS. But that's a good thing because you don't want it distracting you while you are driving. Basically, it's centered around 3 things and 3 things only. First, on the home page or home screen, it just sort of has a Google Now feed of cards, which you can see weather, recent notifications, like Hangouts, although you can't view the Hangouts on screen, but you can tap it and it'll read it out to you through the car's speakers, which is kind of nice. But the big thing is Maps, having Google Maps integration in a car that previously did not. So I put it in a new Subaru Crosstrek. It didn't have like a fancy head unit or anything like that. So, just ripping out the old head unit and putting in this one. It's the Pioneer 8100 NEX. It's super fancy. Being able to have Google Maps on there, and the UI for Google Maps is really nice. When you're doing turn-by-turn navigation, it shows you kind of an overview, kind of like that bird's eye look of the car, what direction you're heading, but it also shows what lanes you need to be in on the other side and all that. So for someone who's not very good at driving, or at least know where they're going. If they're in an area that they don't know, then it's definitely helpful. So there's that part. Another big tie-in is Google Play Music, which I totally love. My whole library of music is on Google. So when you tap on music, you can see recent playlists you've done, recent albums you've been listening to. So that's another big thing. Although, of course, there's other applications that are available for Android Auto, none of which really interest me. Like there's NPR, Kik, Skype, messaging apps, communications apps, tons of podcast apps. Like I don't listen to podcasts as much as I probably should. They just don't really interest me. We do this one, because it's fun to talk about Android and all that and not write about it. But at the same time, I'm not going to get in my own car and listen to the podcast that I put out with you guys. But if someone else wants to listen to the Droid Live show in their car, then by all means, I'd be more than happy for that. Other than that, there's not much going on. There's a dialer built in, so take calls through it and all that. But it's not the fanciest thing I've ever used. I don't know. I wouldn't say that I would have to have Android Auto in my next car or anything like that, although, with Android Auto being pumped into all these new 2016 models that are coming out, no matter what new car you buy, it'll probably come with Android Auto or CarPlay or something like that. It'll come with the compatibility for it. So it's coming, and it's apparently coming to all, top of the market cars, and not just super expensive ones, but the Subarus, the Hondas, and all that. So it's cool, but I would not ask anyone to go out there and spend $1,500 on a third-party head unit or anything like that. I think the implementation that the car makers do with their own infotainment systems, like Cadillac has with Q and all that, let them handle the problem. First you got to pay someone, unless you're handy. I wasn't handy, so I had to have a third-party installer, install the head unit, and then you have problems that just come up. Things don't work properly or something like that, and there's not much you can really do about it because you don't want to bother this guy who you just gave money to try and tell you how to work your own system and all that. The installation process is sort of a pain for the third-party units, but the unit itself is cool. You got to hook it up, Bluetooth connected, connects to your micro USB. So, the next phone I get, I hope it doesn't have USB Type-C, because I don't have a USB Type-C port in my car, and it's it's going to take a couple of years for all this stuff to be on the same page. You know what I mean? And now Google's changing up the hardware, and it's hard. It'll be cool once more apps, I think, are available, kind of helpful apps. I don't know. See, that's not my job, though. I'm not the one who tries to think of what apps would be cool, but I know it's missing something. It's cool to have music and a dialer and maps, but I think it'd be cool to have more stuff. So I'm really hoping developers kind of run with the idea of having a nice big color screen in your car and can put out some cool stuff.
I think the thing I'm most excited about is just that everyone seems to be on board. This has all seemed like it was just an idea not that long ago, just over a year ago, I think. But now basically every car manufacturer has said, yeah, we're gonna have support in our next cars for CarPlay and Android Auto. So, since all car infotainment systems are garbage, it'll be nice that you can at least sort of flip the switch, if you will, over to Android Auto or CarPlay if you want to, and then sort of control it your own way. I was just looking at their site, and Acura, Audi, Bentley, Chevy, Chrysler, Dodge, Fiat, Ford, Honda, Hyundai, Infiniti, Jeep, Kia. I mean, everyone is on. Mazda, Nissan, Mitsubishi, Ram, Suzuki, Subaru, Volkswagen, Volvo. Everyone's on this thing. So it'll be the next car, if everyone buys a car in the next, or starting from probably next year or the end of this year on, there's probably a pretty good chance that your car will have some sort of Android Auto support, which is nice.
It is nice, because it's a nice system, but again, paying $1,000 plus, for a good unit. There's plenty of units I think that are under $1,000, but those come with really crappy displays and crappy buttons, and to get the full experience, something that's not going to jank out on you, you got to spend top dollar, and that's not something I think is worth it at this moment. I mean, like a phone, for example, top of the line phone, not $1,000, But for something that only does maps and music through my car, costing more than $1,000 to me doesn't exactly
Yeah,
make.
I don't get that either.
Yeah, I've seen people jimmy rig a tablet that does more in their car than Android Auto does. So for less money, some duct tape or something.
All right, this is completely random, but sort of related. One of the apps Google lists on the Android Auto page is ICQ. Do you guys remember ICQ, the messenger application? It was like a Windows app. So you guys probably have no idea. So,
I remember.
yeah, ICQ was like this huge messaging platform back in the day, and I didn't know it was still around.
I did not
Apparently,
know either, yeah.
It has a lot of ratings. This is like a really popular app.
yeah, I mean it's between 10 and 50 million installs on Google Play. That is insane.
And its last update was today. That's impressive.
It was today. That is crazy. I had no idea that ICQ was still a thing.
It's alive and well.
It was a big deal back in the day. Before, like when Google Talk, it was when that was still really terrible. ICQ was where it was at. And if you weren't an AOL Instant Messenger user, you used ICQ.
It was all about AIM.
Yeah, see, I never got into. I used ICQ.
Oh no, I'll aim.
No, I was from Montana. We didn't do that.
We didn't do AIM in Montana.
All right, Tim, do you want to talk Nvidia Shield real quick as well, and then we
Nvidia Shield. I can be pretty quick about that. I've already posted hands-on impressions in Nvidia, but I definitely want to do a full review of Nvidia Shield because there's quite a lot to talk about. The Nexus player, of course, is running Android TV, but I kicked that thing to the curb pretty quickly once I filled up its storage, and I was like, oh man, this thing kind of sucks. Like, I can't really do anything with it. Nvidia Shield, on the other hand, has totally reinvigorated my passion for this. So, it brings games that were not yet available, but now they're kind of exclusive to the Nvidia Shield. So, of course, I've been playing them, and so that's Doom 3 and Miami Hotline, games like that were big on PCs, and now they are available on Android TV, and I can play them on my HD TV. And of course, Shield being the only Android TV set-top box that is 4K compatible, I'm able to stream my House of Cards and through Netflix and onto the TV, and it looks fantastic and everything is awesome. But gaming and performance on Shield is pretty great. I have zero complaints about the box. The hardware is really cool looking. The controller is just as good as ever as it was with the Shield tablet. Basically same controller. So if you have yet to pick up an Android TV set-top box because you just don't think it's cool or something like that, it's cool. Shield, Nvidia made it cool. I can pretty much guarantee you that. And so yeah, that's all I really wanted to talk about Shield. If you don't have one, pick it up. They start at $199, which isn't too bad. And if you buy it, you get I think $30 of Google Play credit and 3 free months of Google Play Music. So that's like $60 value right there. Boom.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah.
Is there really a 500 gig version too, or something like that?
There's really a 500 gig Pro model, is what they are calling it, and that comes with a free copy of Borderlands: The Pre-Sequel, which is also a $30 value. So if you spend $300, you get $90 of additional value thrown in there. I find myself being like a little bit of a gaming nerd, so Nvidia, and there are a bunch of gamers over there too, so they really kind of make it worth it for gamers. And of course, with it comes with Grid, so being able to stream, these full games in 1080p onto the TV is it's really badass. I mean, that's definitely the way I think gaming will be. You aren't going to have to go out to GameStop and hang out with a bunch of kids in a parking lot waiting for 12 a.m. to hit. Instead, you can just get it right there on the servers and stream it directly to your console, even though they do not like it being called a console, and just play it right there in the comfort of your own home.
That's interesting. They don't like it being referred to as a console.
They don't. Nope, but their marketing department does not like console.
Interesting.
Yeah, they want to be Android TV box or set-top box. No console. Because I don't think they want to take on the consoles. I think there was something about that.
That could be.
Going head-to-head with Xbox or PlayStation.
Yeah, that could be.
Yeah.
Huh. Sweet. Let's see. Quickly, Nest has an event next week. Obviously, Google owns Nest. Nest owns Dropcam. We'll see what they announce. A lot of people think it might be a new camera. Actually, someone told me today that Nest actually created a camera months ago and sent it out to beta testers, and it does up to 1080p streaming. So it may just be a 1080p HD drop cam basically with Nest branding and maybe some other tricks up its sleeve. We'll see if they have anything else to announce, but it sounds like it might be a camera. So let's see. Tim, you want to talk about Periscope real quick?
Yes. So Twitter's Periscope is now available on Android through Google Play. Much like Meerkat and much like Periscope on iOS, you basically are attached to your Twitter account and you can live stream video. Although unlike Meerkat, which reminds me of Snapchat quite a bit, once you're done doing a video and doing a live stream, it is saved on the server so people can go back and watch it. On Meerkat, it's instantly deleted, so you can't go back and find your previous casts. So Periscope's pretty cool. I follow a few people like the San Francisco Giants and stuff. When the players are doing batting practice, I can watch that, or something cool like that. There's events going on that are big. I think for example, when the riots in Baltimore were happening, some people were on the streets and periscoping that. So when things like that are going down, and people say news crews aren't there with with their cameras, real people just with their cell phone can document things that are taking place that could be important. And that's big, I just kind of think about the news, the way news has evolved with Twitter. I mean, we have so much information going up immediately, and Periscope kind of helps that move along, and now with video and commentary at the same time with the person's voice. So it's pretty cool for people who like to be on top of events like that, or just like to follow celebrities who, post pictures of their giblets. I think Periscope's pretty cool. I've been enjoying it quite a bit.
You have been enjoying it.
Yeah.
I tried, but then I would have to go find people that I would want to follow, and I don't know. I don't feel like I have the time to add Periscope to my life. Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, it's not that difficult, but
that's true. You just get notifications when people are doing stuff anyway, right?
Yeah. It's just you have to be able to do it like in the moment.
Exactly. If it's not in the moment, then what's the point?
That's true.
It's kind of cool being able, like Tom Green. I forgot he was even alive. No offense, Tom. Like I loved you back in the day. I thought he disappeared, and but he was like just skateboarding down in Miami, just going down the streets talking to people on Periscope, and I was like, wow, Tom's still there. He's got it. He's not asking anyone to kiss his bum or whatever, but he's still all right.
Yeah, I've seen some. Like I saw somebody do a live Q&A about their app. So that's kind of cool. But it's like, but you have to be there in the moment. So if you're not, it's like, well, I don't want to. Like,
right.
It's cool because of that interaction element. That's what makes it neat. But it's just, you have to. I feel like it's something that works if it's something that's planned. Like if you say, hey, I'm going to Periscope at this time. If you can make it great, like that's like if you're just like randomly like, hey, I'm going to randomly start up a stream. Then it's like, okay, well, maybe people around. But like when I started trying it when I was on vacation. So like I did it. A couple times, but it's like everybody else is at work, so they're jumping in.
Exactly. I enjoy watching those Q&As, but if you're a non-popular person, like for example, I've never done a Periscope, but I have like 100+ followers or something like that.
Look at this guy.
It's okay to do a Q&A at that point, but say if you only have like 5 followers or something, you try and do like a Q&A, it's not going to be all that eventful, I don't think. But I plan on doing my own Periscopes one day. Maybe, I think I was going to go out shopping one day, like just go into a random Foot Locker and just Periscope it. Because I always have like the weirdest experiences in Foot Locker and just Periscope it. So we'll see.
So weird. See, and like that's what I don't know that I like about the idea of Periscope is that like I'm gonna walk into Foot Locker, and there's gonna be some random dude over there like periscoping his like shopping experience, and I'm just gonna be totally annoyed by it because he'll like run into me or something. I'll have to walk around his like whole production of Periscope.
Production, just him holding up a phone. Production. I got my crew with me with lighting and all that.
Exactly.
It's not gonna be a big production.
Keep the boom out of the shot.
Exactly.
It's just so weird. Someday I'll come around to it. It's because it's clearly not going away. Like it's growing. People seem to really care. I think.
As much as you hate it, it's growing.
Yes. I know. As much as I hate it, people clearly care. So I just need to accept that.
Well, and it is a little different from something like when somebody puts up an Instagram video. Like it feels more intimate because it is in the moment.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I've seen instances like that where somebody's doing something, I'm like, oh, like this is a window into a life that I would otherwise not get, and they would probably not like. Because usually when you're broadcasting what's happening, like it's not like if I'm gonna put up an Instagram video, it's like of something I know it's going to happen or whatever most of the time, right? Like it's stuff that I've pre-recorded, like you know whatever it is. With this, it's like anything could happen, and maybe it's just somebody. Yeah, it's live, and like maybe they're just talking about whatever's going on. Like it can be like so it has a little bit of a more intimate feel, which I like. But it's hard to plan, right? I think it has to be something that's planned ahead of time, and that you try and get people on board and say, hey, we're going to do this at this point. So, but yeah, but it's definitely public facing, right? Like it's not like I'm not going to be like doing a Periscope to like show my family something. Like that's still going to be FaceTime and Hangouts and things like that.
It's for people you don't know. Like really, it would be just for my Twitter followers, who none of them that I actually know, but if they
but now they can know you and your football experience.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, and I don't mind sharing that.
Yeah, it's just such a weird concept to just. Maybe I'm just kind of a private person in that way that I just.
God, you're private.
That I just don't want to go.
We want to know your shoe size, Kellen. Just
I'm eating lunch right now. Hey everyone, let's eat lunch with me. Like I guess I don't.
Maybe you should do it. Maybe people really dig it.
Maybe you should get on iOS if you value your privacy so much.
It's not the privacy in that. It's like my life.
Yeah, it's the broadcasting.
I want to broadcast my life everywhere.
Yeah.
But a lot of people clearly do. So
yeah,
good for them.
Yep.
All right. Anything else you guys want to talk about? Should we just wrap?
We should wrap. Ron, thanks for being here.
Thanks for being here, Ron.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So episode 84. Life has, I believe, calmed down a little bit now. We don't have like events coming up and stuff. So other than it being summer, and maybe we could do these more than once a month or something like that. We will try. So anyways, thanks for joining us. That's a short notice. We're Droid Life. Peace.
Peace.